Welcome to today's GNA. We will be discussing 5 articles. First 4 are related to the prelims and 5th article will be related to the mains. Now, first article will be the Pralay Missile, second article will be the NISAR Satellite, third article will be on the World Tiger Day, and fourth article will be on the World Economic Outlook report released by the IMF. In the mains aspect, we will be reading an article written by C. Rajamohan and we will try to decode it. That will be the West versus Rest, a fiction. That's all on today's GNA. DRDO successfully conducted back-to-back test flight of the indigenously built Pralay missile. So DRDO is in animal mode basically. So they have invoked their animal spirit as well, as rightly said by our Prime Minister, right? So let us see what is the Pralay missile and what is the use of it. So basically it was launched from the Dr. APJ Abdul Kalam Island, that is of the Odisha coast, and Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh ji congratulated the team for the successful test flight, right? And test aimed to validate both the maximum and minimum range, and NOTAM was issued accordingly in last few days, right? Now let us try to understand what is Pralay missile. So Pralay missile is considered tactical, right? It is tactical, surface to surface, short range quasi ballistic missile, right? It is quasi ballistic and it is tactical. So if you want to generalize the type of the missile, it can be generalized as a one cruise missile, second is the tactical missile, and third is the strategic missile, right? CTS, right? So cruise is low lying, right? Tactical which carry the tactical weapons for the limited destruction, and strategic is long range plus they carry the more weapon head as well, right? So this is developed by DRDO. Engine type, basically it's having two-stage rocket motor with the third stage MARV technique in it. Range will be the 150 to 550 kilometer. It will be in between the Prithvi 1 and Prithvi 2, right? So the gap will be filled by the Pralay missile, and trajectory will lie low. That's why we are calling it a quasi ballistic missile. Guidance system will work on the initial navigation system, means once a target is locked, it will remain locked. There is no basically scope for the soft kill, unlike the drones in which we can do the soft kill, right? So and the launch platform will be quite mobile, right? It can deploy within the 10 minutes and within the 10 seconds it can be launched. This is the information as given by the various portals, right? And it will having the 5-ton capacity in it, right? And the operational range is again 150 to 500 kilometers depending on the nature of the target. So the NOTAM was released for the 470 kilometers, right? And it has the capability to defeat the interceptor missile. Why it is so? Because when it will basically will be touching the target, the speed will be more than 6 Mach, which is very hard to intercept, right? And it is quite maneuverable as well, right? Because it can change its path after covering the certain range mid-air and difficult to track. That's why we have given a very tough fight to the Pakistan with the BrahMos. Now Pralay is going to annihilate Pakistan in case of any future misadventure, right? So Pralay is basically somehow compared with the Fateh 2 missile of the Iran and the Prithvi 2 missile of the India, or it was developed by the DRDO itself, right? Now let us try to have an eye on the both the things, that is how Pralay missile is different from the Fateh 2 and the Prithvi 2. So basically Fateh missile is hypersonic, as at the same time the Prithvi missile is quasi ballistic, right? It is quasi ballistic or quasi ballistic surface to surface missile, right? At the same time Prithvi is short range ballistic missile. So as rightly said, Fateh 2 is developed by Iran. Here it is DRDO and DRDO. Range of Fateh is quite long, 1500 kilometer. At the same time the range of Pralay missile is 150 to 500 kilometer. At the same time gap is filled by whom? Prithvi missile. This having range nearly 350 kilometers, right? The Fateh can reach speed up to Mach 15. It's very hard to detect again, right? We have seen the recent action of Fateh against the Israel. Propulsion system used by the Fateh 2 is liquid fuel engine with adjustable thrust. At the same time, Prithvi 2 will use twin liquid fuel propulsion engine. However, Pralay will be using solid propellant rocket motor in it, right. The payload will be for the Fateh is 200 less than nearly around 200 kilometers. For the Prithvi, it is high, there is a 500 to 1000 kilometers, and the same lies with the Pralay. The range will be the payload will be the 5000 to 100 kilometers, right, kg. So, guidance system used by the Fateh will be the precision guided with the trajectory change capability. Prithvi is having advanced inertial guidance system, and the Pralay missile is having advanced guidance with high accuracy. The CEP, that is the accuracy range, if you have to call, it will be less than 10 meter, which is very precise, like the BrahMos itself, right. Fateh 2 is highly maneuverable. The Prithvi is also maneuverable, and Pralay will be mid-air, having mid-air maneuverability capability for the evasive action. That is why it is considered very lethal. Now, let us try to solve the question which is given on the screen. Second topic is on the NISAR satellite. So, NISAR satellite is to be launched on today itself, right, and the topic will be GS paper 3 and science and technology. Now, let us try to understand what is NISAR and what is the use of the NISAR. So, basically NISAR is a geosynchronous satellite launch vehicle, right. Basically it will be launched by GSLV. It will be launched by GSLV with 2392 kg satellite, and it will launch today itself by 5:40 p.m. right. And after 19 minutes of the liftoff, the GSLV F-16 rocket will inject the NISAR satellite into 743 km sun synchronous orbit. Now, tell me in the comment box what is the difference between geosynchronous orbit and sun synchronous orbit, and which is more apt for the environmental conservation protection and which is more apt for the military use. Tell me in the comment box, right. Now, let us ponder more upon the NISAR satellite. So, NISAR stands for the NASA ISRO Synthetic Aperture Radar Satellite, which is joint venture of the NASA and ISRO, right. And it is a pioneering dual band having the L band and S band microwave imaging mission, right, which will be using synthetic aperture radar with sweep SAR technology for high resolution, wide swath, polarimetric and interferometric imaging, right. Now, key application and objective of NISAR mission will be to monitor woody biomass, to track extent of active crops, right, study waterland and their seasonal and long term changes, map and monitor ice sheets and Greenland and Antarctica, sea ice and mountain glaciers, right, and analyze tectonic movement and land surface deformation due to earthquake, volcano, landslide and subsurface changes. For example, hydrocarbons and changes occurred by the aquifers and all, right. So, the NISAR satellite is built on the ISRO's I-3K satellite bus. It carries two main payload, L band and S band synthetic aperture radar, right. So, what is different between L band and S band? Let us try to understand. So, L band operates at wavelength of approximately 24 centimeter, right, which is designed to penetrate through vegetation and surface material, and it provides high resolution imagery for studying solid earth process, ice sheet dynamics and biomass changes, right. These are the L band SAR. Now, let us try to understand about the S band SAR, which operate at a wavelength of approximately 10 centimeter, right, which provides high resolution imagery for monitoring natural hazards such as earthquake, volcanic activity and landslides, right. Hope the difference between L band and S band is clear to you. Now, what is the contribution of NASA vis-a-vis ISRO? Let us try to understand. So, ISRO will provide S band radar system, data handling and high speed downlink. It will provide satellite commanding and operation system, and spacecraft and launch system will be provided by whom? NASA. So, ISRO. What will the contribution of the NASA? NASA will look for the operational plans, radar system, downlink system, recorder and GPS, boom and reflectors. So, that is why it is like joint project between the NASA and ISRO, and hence the name is the NISAR. Got it? So, Now, let us try to understand the various mission phases of the NISAR. So, it will be having basically 8-day mission, and there are various stages attached with it, which is very technical, not needed for the UPSC purposes, right. Now, during the deployment phase, a 12-meter reflector will be deployed, and basically reflector focuses radar signal from the L-band radar to scan Earth surface with high resolution, right. Also, in the commissioning phase, within the first 90 days, in orbit checkout, which is a phase where all system and instrument on board of the satellite are tested, calibrated and validated in the space after deployment will be done, which will ensure spacecraft component are functioning correctly, right. So, the question can come and the word can, what is the meaning of in orbit checkout during the spacecraft launch? You can give the answer, right. And there are science operational phase, which will begin after commissioning and continues for the entire mission life, right. Which will involve regular orbit maneuver, calibration and validation, we call CalVal, right, and coordinated observation planning between ISRO and LJP for L-band and SAR instrument, right. So, NISAR payload will work on the L-band synthetic aperture radar and S-band synthetic aperture radar. Now, what is the meaning of the synthetic aperture radar, right? Basically, SAR is a remote sensing technique that uses microwave radar to create detailed image of the Earth surface. Now, how it works? Very important. So, basically SAR system emits microwave pulses and record echoes reflected from the Earth surface. You can see the surface and they are reflecting, right. By processing these echoes, while the radar is moving, a longer synthetic aperture is created, right. It is like one of the camera function that we use in our phones, mobile phones. So, it is like that only, right. In which longer synthetic aperture created, which improves the image resolution, right. A panorama mode that we use in the mobile phone, we can basically is somehow similar to this thing only, right. Just to make things more relatable, I am giving you this example, right. This is the oversimplification of the SAR system, right. Hope it is clear to you. Now, what is the beauty of the SAR? So, SAR is a all weather operation device, and which can penetrate clouds, fog or even darkness. Try to recall during the Balakot strike, we are not able to produce the image. So, if you are having such kind of a technology, it will be very easier for us to produce evidences in case of the retaliation measure, right. It can operate day or night, right, unlike the optical system which needs the light. SAR, that is synthetic aperture radar, can operate at any time of the day, making it useful the surveillance and the monitoring. So, we can call it dual use technology, right. However, there is no official notification on dual use technology, but yes, it can be used in case of the need. And higher resolution can produce a detailed image with high spatial resolution, right. Now, what is sweep SAR technology that we use? So, unlike the traditional SAR that uses a fixed radar beam, sweep SAR sweeps multiple beams across a wide swath, we can see. So, they are sweeping multiple swath of the thing, right, and it uses multiple receiving channel to collect data from the larger area simultaneously, right. That is why there is a better image quality, there are better pixels that is we can use. So, what is the difference between traditional radar system and SAR system, that is synthetic aperture radar? So, in the traditional radar, it uses a fixed physical antenna. At the same time, the SAR system uses small antenna on a moving platform to simulate a larger synthetic aperture. They create the synthetic aperture, right. Resolution is limited by the physical size. At the same time, in the SAR, higher resolution due to synthetic aperture created by the motion of the antenna. In the traditional radar, imaging detects objects and measures distance, speed and direction. Image detail is limited. However, the SAR produces high resolution image of terrain regardless of the weather or lightning condition, right. Application of the traditional radar lies with the object detection, navigation and weather monitoring. At the same time, in SAR, we can use it for the earth observation, mapping, environmental monitoring and military reconnaissance, right. Hope the things are clear too. Now, let us try to solve the question which is given on the screen. Next news is on the World Tiger Day. So, basically Kaziranga Tiger Reserve, or that we call KTR, which is in Assam, has recorded the third highest tiger density in India after Bandipur, which lies in the Karnataka, and Jim Corbett, which lies in the state of the Uttarakhand, right. So now let's try to understand what is the key development, right. It will lie in the GS paper 3, ecology and biodiversity, right. Now the recognition came from the recent report released on Global Tiger Day, that was on the 29th of the July, that is the yesterday, right. And accordingly, CM of the Assam, Sri Hemant Biswa Sharma, noted that states' effort to go beyond the tiger protection also includes habitat restoration. So there is a new thing that it is not only about the tiger protection, but habitat restoration is also a very important component of tiger conservation. And now let us try to understand tiger count and density. So total tigers recorded were 148 across 1307 square kilometer of the Kaziranga tiger or Kaziranga National Park, right. Tigers density was 18.65 tiger per square kilometer. In comparison, in Bandipur it is 19.83 tigers, and in Corbett it is 19.56 tiger. The tiger's density high is considered good to a certain extent, because if it will be higher than the limit, then there will be conflict between the male tiger oblique any tiger, and that will result into the loss of the life of the tigers because of the fights, right. Now let us try to do the area wise breakdown of the KDR, which is not that important, but we will have to look for. For example, Vishwanath Wildlife Division recorded 27 tiger, Eastern Assam Wildlife Division recorded 104 to 115 in 2025, right. Now what was the survey methodology that was used? It was conducted between December 23 and April 24, it is 1 year old data. And it followed the protocol by the NTCA, that is the National Tiger Conservation Authority, and Wildlife Institute of India, and it used camera traps and specially split recapture, that is the SECR, right, method for the more accurate, ecologically meaningful results. What is SECR? Which is a statistical method used to estimate animal population density and related parameters from the recapture data collected using a specially distributed array of detectors such as traps or the camera, right. The question can be asked, what is the meaning of SECR, right. So you should be knowing the answer. Now let us try to understand what is NTCI, right. So it is a statutory body under the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, established in 2006 under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, right. You can see the logo of the NTCA. What is the purpose of NTCA? So it grants legal backing to the Project Tiger Directive. It strengthens center state accountability in tiger reserve management through MOUs. It enables parliamentary oversights and considers livelihood of the local communities near tiger reserve. What is the composition of NTCA? So NTCA is chaired by the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change Minister, who is the Environment and Climate Change Minister, comment in the box, right. It is vice chaired by the Minister of the State, right, and it includes 3 MPs, the MOFCC secretaries and other appointed members, right. Hope it is clear to you. Now let us try to understand about the Wildlife Institute of India. So basically WII is an autonomous institution under Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, right. Established in 1892 and location is in the Dehradun, right, Uttarakhand. Function is to provide training, academic courses and expert advice in wildlife research and management, and it conducts nationwide research on the biodiversity, endangered species, wildlife policies, forensics, eco-development, spatial modeling and climate change impact. Hope both the institution and their mandate is clear to you. Now let us try to understand about the International Tiger Day that was celebrated on 29th of the July. Purpose is to highlight the global effort needed to protect wild tiger and their natural habitat, and they have the TX2 global goal, which is a key focus of the day of the TX goal, which is a collective international commitment to double the wild tiger population by 2022. So it is passed. You will have to look for the day we will achieve the global population tiger, which is doubled, right. It is initiated by the World Wildlife Fund (WWF) in collaboration of Global Tiger Initiative, Global Tiger Forum, and other conservative platform. Now, what is the historical background of the this International Tiger Day? So, the International Tiger Day was officially launched in 2010 at the St. Petersburg Tiger Summit, where 3 tiger range countries came together for the tiger conservation, right? And it's essentially a strong conservation method because it will create basically awareness among the people about the conservation method to be adopted. Now, let us try to understand about the tiger, that is known as the Panthera tigris. Conservation status of the tiger ICN is endangered. Wildlife Protection Act is it kept in Schedule 1, is the highest protected animal. In the CITES, it is protected as Appendix 1, right? Now, tell me what is the meaning of the CITES Appendix 1, right? What is more about the tigers? So, it's a flagship species and has been officially recognized as national animal of India, right? And the habitat of it lies from the eastern border to the southern border to the northern border. So, it is prevalent all over the India, and it can be found in the high mountains, mangroves like the Royal Bengal tiger, in the tall grasslands, moist dry deciduous forest like in the Bandipur, right, evergreen in the Shola forest, right. So, it is quietly prevalent and is considered one of the umbrella species. Now, tell me in the comment box what is the meaning of umbrella species in terms of the environment and ecology, right. So, generally tigers are solitary and territorial animals. What about the lions? Lions, tell me in the comment box, lions are solitary or not, right. Very interesting information. Each tiger is a unique stripe pattern akin to the human fingerprint, and this is used in the M stripe as well for the recognition, right. That is the next, that is M stripe, which is techniques to identify tigers, right. What is the full form? Monitoring system for the tiger, right. Intensive protection and ecological status, that is known as the M stripe, which is a digital tool to strengthen patrolling, surveillance and ecological monitoring in Indian Tiger Reserve, and it was developed by NTCA. Key features include that forest guard will be equipped with the GPS devices and digital assistant, and it enables real-time data collection on tiger sightings, wildlife crime and habitat conservation. PYQ was also asked on the M stripe, hope you remember it. Now, let us try to solve the question which is given in the screen. Next news on the World Economic Outlook report, which is released by the IMF recently, right, in which IMF raises India's growth forecast, very good for India, aligning with the global economic environment, economic improvement, right. The syllabus will lies in GS paper 3, that is the economic growth. Now, let us try to delve deeper into the news. So, the IMF raised India's GDP growth forecast to 6.4 for both 2020-25 and 2026 and 2026 and 2027. Improving upon its earlier estimation from April, right. The upgrade is of 0.2 percentage point for the 2025 and 0.1 percentage for the 2026-2027. So, it is a good trend, right. And the global growth forecast is also improved. It is not that India is growing in silos, but the world will also grow as per the IMF. What IMF says? The IMF July 2025 World Economic Outlook raises global growth projection to 3% for the 2025 and 3.1% for the 2026, right. So, very good trend. Now, what is the factor behind the upgrades? First is the trade and tariff. Stronger than expected global trade activity was observed because of the basically tension raised by the Trump tariff. It was projected that now the growth will be declined, which was not there because we have managed it, right. The world has managed it in fact. And US economic environment is also lower than expected effective US tariff rate. It was considered it will basically drive the world into the recession, which is not the case, right. And there is the improved financial condition due in part to the weaker US dollar, right. Also, there is a fiscal expansion which is due to the increased government spending in the key economics, including the China or India, right. Now, let us try to understand what is World Economic Outlook report. So, World Economic Outlook report is a flagship publication of the IMF, released twice a year, right, First in the month of the April and second is the month of the October, right? Focus area is it offers economic analysis and forecast for the global economy. What is the purpose of World Economic Outlook? So basically, it aims to evaluate economic development, identify emerging trends and suggest policy action. Major component is growth forecast, inflation trend, financial risk assessment, right? Significance of this report lies in the it is referred by the policymakers, researchers and investors to interpret and respond to the global economic shift. Now let us try to understand what is IMF. So IMF is an international financial institution that promotes global economic stability and sustainable growth. Key objective of IMF lies with the encouraging international trade, supporting financial cooperation, aid in poverty reduction. It was established in 1944 as a Bretton Woods conference, right? Initial goal was to coordinate international monetary policy and prevent competitive currency devaluation. And since then it has evolved its role, and now it became the lender of the last resort to countries facing severe currency and balance of payment crisis. You might have heard about just during the Operation Sindoor, Pakistan received IMF bailout, right? Now tell me in the comment box who deals with the severe currency issue or the balance of payment crisis in India, right? I am talking about the India. So other major IMF report are World Economic Outlook and Global Financial Stability Report, that is GFSR, right? Now there is a practice question which is on the screen. Let us try to solve it. A very interesting article came in Indian Express by our favorite C. Raja Mohan ji, in which he is discussing the West versus Rest debate and what is the way forward in it. Very interesting. It is overlapping with the GS paper 2 international relations, right? Now let us try to summarize the entire editorial for better understanding, and we will discuss few key terms used by the C. Raja Mohan ji as well. Now the C. Raja Mohan ji is arguing that that West in decline and that it will soon be swamped by the rising tide of the rest. So here West is basically countries representing the USA oblique the European Union and such developed country, and the rest is defined by the countries like China or India or other countries like Russia, right? Russia lies in between the West and the basically East, right? So basically we call it is a recurrent theme since the encounter between the West and the rest began several centuries ago. However, the reality is that the West countries to endure while the rest struggle to effectively take the lead, right? Now C. Raja Mohan ji examines the long standing discourse around the decline of the West and the supposed rise of the East, tracing the origin of this debate in the Cold War era when leaders like Mao Zedong heralded the East wind overtaking the West. So the Mao regime has basically started this debate, which is still going on, right? Despite recurring prediction from of the Western decline, the West influence, especially in soft power and enlightenmental idea. For example, there is a talk of the feminism. There is a liberal society. The society is marked by the capitalist order, right? These are the soft power or the culture, basically melting pot of the different culture, which is West represents in very beautiful way, which is persisted a strong attraction for those dissatisfied the Eastern region. We can see many people migrating from the Eastern region to the Western region. We have seen this in trend in India as well. We have seen the how like rich people are basically leaving their Indian passport and acquiring the passport of the Western countries, right? We have seen this trend in India as well. C. Raja Mohan ji also argues that the commentary highlight how when China, the most successful non-Western power economically, right, struggle with the authoritarianism and has to and yet to fulfill promises of the democracy. So he argues that C. Raja Mohan ji argues that China is strong economically, but on the other parameters that the democracy in liberalism, they are quite hard, right? Hence, it is not attractive to the people like we have seen the Chinese billionaire or the businessman being deported or basically being arrested by the government, which is not considered good, right? Internally, the East faces limitations like curbed freedom, fragmented policies, and that these issues undermine the capacity to offer a viable alternative to the Western model or lead a unified bloc. He is arguing that yes, there can be problem in the Western world, but they offer some attractive offers which is not available with the East. So, why one should come to the East rather than they enjoy life in the Western front of the world, right? And C. Rajamohan also discusses Amitabh Acharya's vision of a multiplex world order, where power and governance are decentralized and shaped by both Western and non-Western tradition. So, what is multiplex world order? Let us try to understand. Basically, a multiplex world order has 4 core features. First, it marks the absence of global hegemony by any single or small set of the nation. So, for example, US used to be the hegemonic power or world police. So, in the multiplex world order, there will be no global police, right? Second, there will be interdependence which will go beyond economic matters and include linkages in environment, sustainable development, governance, security and connectivity. So, we can see the world connectivity is basically economic primarily, right? However, in the multiplex order, the economy will not be a prime factor, but the other factor like environment and other thing will also will be a binding force. Now, next thing is there will be dynamic and multi-level global governance architect. For example, there will be a rise of the United Nations organization or IMF like organization in the multiplex world rather than a single organization, right? Finally, in such order, cultural, ideological and political diversity provides renewed pathway to stability, peace and the prosperity. These are the features of the multiplex world order, right? However, the Acharya ji argues that the principle of order and cooperation historically emerged mainly from the civilization and not the only modern Western countries, right? So, it is not prerogative of only West to have the principle of order and cooperation, right? However, the article critiques that the vision observes that the East's internal contradiction prevent it from the providing the true alternative system. So, because of the such kind of the repressive society we have seen in this China or other countries, right, the East is not able to provide the alternative to the West. That is the center plank of the entire article that is written by the C. Rajamohan ji. Now, let us try to compare the West to the East. So, what is the difference as per the ideals? The West provides enlightenment values, reason, skepticism, individual liberty and secularism. However, the East have strong state control, curbed freedom, collective interest and identity based politics, right. In terms of the governance, the West provides liberal democracy and there is a rule of law. At the same time, in the East, there is a authoritarian tendency, limited or controlled democracy, right. We can give the example of the China or Russia in the East, right. In terms of the economic model, there is a capitalism, innovation led and market driven growth. At the same time, in the East, there is a state driven capitalism, rapid prosperity, right. And India lies in between the West and the East. If you go through the different basically aspect of the Western world versus Eastern world, India lies somehow in between, right. And in the Western part, there is a soft power appeal which is very high, which attracts migrants, talented and dissidents, right. At the same time, in the East, there is a limited soft power and there is an overflow of talent that we call brain drain, dissatisfaction under the authoritarian regime. For example, you can give the example of Alibaba, right. Now, the global leadership is provided by the West, right, and East aspires to influence, but struggle with the regional rivalries and internal unity. Basically, there are so many officials in the East that they will not be able to give an alternative to the West. That is the central plank of this idea. Now, the vision for world order is the liberal international order. At the same time, East call for the multiplex order, right. We have already discussed the multiplex world order. In terms of the approach to the pluralism, it called for the greater tolerance, secularism, institutional safeguard. At the same time, East called for the rise of religious, ethnic and linguistic exclusion. We can see the basically national chauvinism shown by the China recent time, right? Now, what are the challenges and contradiction? There is a fear of relative decline, but institutionally and economically they are quite resilient state. At the same time, there is internal authorities, social unrest, national assertiveness or undermine credibility. So, what is the basically position of India? They are injunction of the West and East, right? And there is also one concept that is used by the status quest power and revisionist power. So, this is basically a theory that we use in the international relations, right? So, status quest power supports and benefit from the existing global order. Example is the USA, right? At the same time, revisionist power seeks to change, challenge or overturn the existing world order. There are examples of China, examples of Russia, etc., right? The goal is to maintain current international norms. That is why status quest. At the same time, revisionist power try to alter the global power distribution or create alternative system. For example, BRI of the China, right? Belt and Road Initiative. Approach lies with the multilateralism in terms of the status quest power, diplomacy and rule based engagement. At the same time, revisionist power look for the assertive unilateral action and alternative structure. And there are global institutions like United Nations, WTO, IMF and World Bank representative of the status quest power. At the same time, the revisionist power try to create alternative institutions like SEO, BRICS, AIB. That is why the BRICS was demonized by whom? President Trump, right? Now, in terms of the military behavior, the status quest power try to be defensive, focused on the collective security like NATO. At the same time, a revisionist power like China will go offensive or will try to be deterrent, right? And may use force to alter the status quo. For example, Russia. And in terms of the ideological leaning, liberal democracy, global cooperation will be there. In the revisionist power, there will be nationalism, authoritarianism, ideological revisionism. Examples are USA, European Union, Japan, Australia, in fact, India. Contextually, you can put in the status quest power as well as in terms of the revisionist power, right? The example of the classical example of the revisionist power are China, Russia, Iran, North Korea, etc. So, that is the difference. Hope you are able to understand better, right? Now, let us try to conclude the entire debate. As per the C. Rajamohan Acharya, who referred who referred Mr. Acharya, and he referred the book as well, the Once and the Future World Order, in which he introduces the multiplex order. So, C. Rajamohan is saying for the multiplex world order rather than any unipolar or bipolar or multipolar world order, right? And he also advocate cooperative system grounded in civilizational pluralism, right? And he envisions world not of imposed norms, but negotiated consensus. Very key word that you should be knowing, negotiated consensus or confluence of civilization that you can use, right? These word can be used in your answer writing as a keyword. Now, to conclude, while the rise of the East offers opportunity for a fairer global order, the foundational value underpinning Western success like individual liberty and reason cannot be bypassed. Any real leadership from the East must engage and evolve these principles, not abandon them. That is all on the today's the entire thing. Now, let us try to focus on the practice question. It says the decline of West is neither inevitable nor complete. Instead, the world is transitioning towards the multiplex order. Discuss. We will discuss in 250 words. Now, let us try to solve this question, right? Thank you.